I thought nothing could surprise me after pretending to be a woman on Tinder and Bumble. I was wrong. 10 minutes into this Instagram experiment, I felt something new and unsettling. A hint of real fear. My heart was pounding over a simple DM notification. I wasn't in any physical danger, but my body didn't care. It felt like I was. That's when I knew Instagram was going to be a whole different game, and not in a fun way. Let me back up and explain. After my Bumble experiment, I heard from a lot of women that Instagram DMs were on a whole different level. Instagram isn't even a dating app, but some women's inboxes are basically war zones of unwanted attention. I had to see it for myself. So I made an Instagram profile for Jennifer, the same fake persona I used before. I used the same photos my friend lent me and wrote a simple bio about loving books and the outdoors. I left the account public. No swipes or matching needed, just a regular profile that happened to belong to an attractive young woman. Then I sat back to see what would happen. It didn't take long. The first DM landed in Jennifer's inbox about 15 minutes after I created the account. Just a simple, "Hey beautiful" with a heart emoji. By itself, that one didn't seem too bad. But it was only the beginning. Over the next hour, more message notifications popped up. 5, 10, 20. I lost count. Some just reacted to the first photo I posted. Heart eyes emojis, fire emojis on a picture of Jennifer hiking. Others went straight to flirting or borderline propositions. And the longer I left the account active, the more the floodgates opened. At first, I was almost amused. On Tinder, guys at least had to match with Jennifer before they could message. On Bumble, nothing happened until she made the first move. But on Instagram, anyone and everyone can barge right in. No filter, no permission, just boom, a stranger's message in your private inbox. Part of me thought, okay, here we go. So this is what being popular feels like. But that initial curiosity evaporated fast. The DMs that poured in ranged from awkward to outrageous. Sure, there were cheesy one-liners, the classic "hey sexy" or random guys asking "you single." Those were practically harmless. But some messages went further and made my stomach turn. One guy actually wrote that he'd worship me like a goddess, which might sound flattering until you remember he knows zero about Jennifer beyond her profile pics. It didn't feel like a compliment. It felt off. Like he was projecting a fantasy onto a stranger, not talking to a real person. And then came the photos. It only took a few hours for someone to send an unsolicited picture. Exactly the kind you're imagining. I kept thinking about my friend whose pictures I used. How would she feel opening that message? It made me feel sick to my stomach. By the end of the first day, Jennifer's profile had accumulated dozens of message requests. Far more than I expected for a brand new account, with only a handful of posts. I even had a few men leave comments on the pictures like, "Check DM's gorgeous," as if demanding I read their messages. That blew my mind. These guys weren't content just admiring a photo or leaving a polite remark. They wanted direct access and immediate conversation. And if I didn't respond, well, they didn't always take that well. There was one guy who sent a simple "hi" on Monday morning. I didn't respond. I was just observing, after all, not actually trying to meet anyone. A few hours later, he sent a question mark. That evening, another message. "Too good to talk to me, huh?" I stared at that for a while, thinking about how quickly a friendly greeting turned into a bitter jab just because of silence. Another man went, "You there?" Then, "Hello?" Within 30 minutes, followed by, "Fine, ignore me, whatever." It was the exact same passive-aggressive tone I'd seen from some Tinder matches when Jennifer didn't reply fast enough. It's like these guys' egos were so fragile that being ignored for a short while pushed them straight into anger. On dating apps, at least there's the premise that you're there to meet people. Not that it excuses it, but it might explain some entitlement. But on Instagram, Jennifer could have been anyone, a busy person, someone not even looking for conversation. Yet some men acted like she owed them a reply, simply because they decided to drop into her DMs. The entitlement was off the charts. Seeing it play out in real time made me angry on behalf of the women who deal with this daily. By day 2, my feelings had shifted from curiosity to full-on discomfort. Every time I opened the app to check messages, I felt a little knot in my stomach. Would there be another explicit photo waiting? Another pushy demand? I actually started hesitating before opening Instagram, mentally bracing myself for what I'd find. And that reaction honestly startled me. I'm a grown man, sitting safely in my own room, and yet a part of me was anxious about checking an Instagram account. How must it feel for a woman who gets these kinds of messages regularly? Who might actually worry that a persistent creep could escalate into a real-life threat? I was getting a tiny glimpse of that fear, and it was enough to throw me off balance. Before I continue, if you're finding this story helpful or eye-opening, please hit subscribe. I'm doing these experiments to bring you something real, and your support means a lot. Plus, you won't miss the upcoming episodes. There was another surprise I didn't see coming. On the dating apps, I figured the men messaging Jennifer were presumably single, or at least acting single, and looking to date. But as I scrolled through the profiles of some guys sliding into the DMs, I noticed something that floored me. Some of these men had girlfriends, or even wives, in real life. One polite "Hey DM" came from a guy whose recent post was a picture with a woman captioned, "My beautiful girlfriend." Yet here he was, sending heart eye emojis to a stranger named Jennifer. Another had photos of his kids on his profile and still sent a flirty message calling Jennifer gorgeous. It's not that cheaters don't exist on those apps. They do. But something about seeing their actual family photos right there next to the messages they sent Jennifer hit me differently. It was equal parts infuriating and depressing. I couldn't help imagining their partners, blissfully unaware that their boyfriend or husband is trolling Instagram, hitting up random women with DMs. For women on Instagram, not only do you get inundated with unwanted attention, but sometimes you unknowingly become part of someone else's dishonesty. That realization stuck with me, and it honestly made me feel a bit sick for those girlfriends and wives. I decided to test something. I sent a couple of polite replies to see how these guys would react. To one, I said I was just on IG for friends. He ignored that hint and kept pushing, immediately turning the conversation flirty, as if any response meant she was interested. Another guy straight up asked if Jennifer had a boyfriend. I told him yes, hoping he'd back off. He didn't. He replied, "He doesn't have to know." That made me feel gross, like he was inviting her to cheat. When I didn't respond after that, he came back with question marks and then, "Your loss." Once again, the moment a woman set a boundary or wasn't interested, some guy's ego shattered. I'd seen the same pattern on the apps, and it was on full display here too. All of this made me second guess my own behavior on social media. I don't usually DM strangers, but I know I've sent a friendly message or story reaction or two thinking it was innocent. Now I wondered, if she didn't reply, did I unwittingly make her uncomfortable? Did she feel like just another target? That possibility made my stomach drop. It's one thing to hear about women getting harassed. It's another to actually feel a sliver of it yourself and realize you might have contributed. That hit me hard. There was one particular DM that genuinely rattled me and drove the lesson home. A man commented on a photo of Jennifer at a local coffee shop. Something innocuous, like, "I go there all the time too." Then he DM'd saying, "We live in the same city. We should meet up." At first glance, it was just forward. But then he added, "I'll keep an eye out for you next time I'm at that cafe." That sent a chill down my spine. He probably thought he was being cute or playful. But to me, sitting there as Jennifer, it felt like a subtle threat, like he might actively look for her in the real world. I had been careful not to reveal any personal info in the profile, but I did tag the city we were pretending to be in and a couple of well-known local spots in the photos. That was enough for this guy to basically say he could find me. In that moment, I felt genuinely afraid. I had to remind myself, I'm the one behind this profile, and I'm actually safe. But I felt a shadow of what a woman might feel, that creeping worry that someone out there might be trying to track you down just because you posted a photo. I didn't respond to him. Instead, I went back and removed the location tags from Jennifer's posts. And I sat there for a while, just letting the reality sink in that women have to think about things like this constantly. A simple photo at a coffee shop can lead to a message that changes how safe you feel. That's terrifying. And women deal with that reality every day when they just try to share their lives online. After 2 days of running this Instagram account, I was completely drained. I've never been so relieved to log out of an app. I ended the experiment, but of course, real women can't just log out of harassment in their actual lives. I kept thinking about that. In 48 hours, Jennifer saw a fire hose of attention and aggression that was overwhelming even for me, a guy who was emotionally detached and knew it was all fake. For the women who live this, it's not an experiment at all. It's their everyday reality on social media. So here's what I took away from this. If you're a woman who has ever felt tired, annoyed, or even scared by what shows up in your DMs, I want to say, I get it now. I might not ever fully live it the way you do, but I've caught a glimpse, and it left me in awe of the strength it takes to navigate this stuff. You have every right to ignore messages, block people, make your profile private, whatever you need to do to feel safe and preserve your peace of mind. You don't owe anyone a response, no matter what you post or how nice they think their message is. And if someone tries to make you feel guilty or stuck up for not replying, remember, they have no clue what it's like in your shoes. I sure didn't until I did this. And guys, if you're listening to this, especially if you're a guy who's ever DM'd a woman out of the blue, I'm not saying you're automatically a bad person. Some of those DMs were harmless or genuinely meant as compliments. But you have to understand the context you're dropping into. You might be message number 30 that she's received this week. If she doesn't respond, or even if she blocks you, that's her survival mechanism. Don't take it personally. More importantly, don't you dare turn around and insult her for it. Be better. Don't be the guy sending unsolicited gross pics. Don't be the guy who goes from, hey beautiful, to calling her nasty names because she didn't respond in an hour. And if you have friends who do that, call them out. We have to do better. What feels like no big deal to you, one little message, might be the 100th message that week for her, and the straw that breaks the camel's back. No one should have to put up with that kind of onslaught. I had a long conversation with a friend who lent me her photos for this experiment. I showed her some of the messages, and she just nodded, unsurprised. She told me, yep, sounds about right. That was heartbreaking to me, that this is so common it doesn't even surprise her. It's just normal for her. For all the Jennifers out there living this, I'm sorry you have to deal with it. I knew intellectually that this stuff happened. I've heard the stories for years. But now I feel it, even just this little bit, and it's changed how I see everything. Empathy isn't something you can fake or attain secondhand. You have to actually feel a piece of someone's experience to truly get it. Now I do, and I'll never forget it. That's it for today's episode of Undercover Male. This one was heavy, but it felt important. Episode 4 is coming up, and I'm going to push this experiment even further. After seeing the wild side of Instagram, I'm going to tackle what some call the so-called classy dating app, Hinge, to see if a more relationship-focused app is any different, or if it has its own surprises in store. You won't want to miss that one, so if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time. I'm excited and a bit nervous for the next step, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. Thank you for listening. and I'll see you in episode 4.